One of the biggest decisions you'll make is where to live. It's not as easy as picking a place or putting your house on the market. You need an expert every step of the way. Here you can expect good advice beyond real estate. This is good advice for your life. This is Good to Know with Liz Goodchild. Here's your host, Liz Goodchild.
Magandang Sabado, and we are back on the studio, and it is 2023, Carrie.
2023 is here. Are you ready? How you feeling since we're like at least a week in?
Oh my goodness, I am so looking forward to this year. And guess what, Carrie?
What?
This is our 5th year doing radio.
I know. I can't believe that. It's gone by really quick, no?
Right,
yeah,
right.
But it's so much fun, and we love, educating, you listeners, and we appreciate you, and we always like to give you that good to know information, right?
So 2023 will be 5 years, doing radio. So, and we've had a lot of fun, and it's just like really enjoying it. So
yeah, we love it, and we hope you guys love it. And again, we appreciate you tuning in every week. It means so much to us, and we love being here. So thank you.
And give us a shout out. I mean, go into our page, our Good to Know page. Where can they reach us at social media?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook and Instagram. If you guys go and search at Good to Know Liz, you can find us there. Give us a like, give us a share. We have a lot of behind the scenes photos, videos, content, and more of all of our amazing weekly guests. You also can go to our website at thegoodchildteam.com/good to know. Again, that's thegoodchildteam.com/good to know, where we have all of our previous podcasts where you can listen anywhere, anytime, from any device. And also we have a list of our amazing sponsors, which we, as we always say, we could not do this show without them. So we always want to give a shout out and thank you to our amazing sponsors. So that includes Brett Rickena of Country Financial, Kashyap Trivedi of Trivedi & Khan Attorneys at Law, Joe Agnello of Nauman Agnello and Associates, Mike Nielsen of Proper Rate, a guaranteed rate lender, and Dave Thompson of Home State Bank. So stay tuned. As it's the beginning of the year. We're going to be having all of our amazing sponsors back to give you that good to know information. But their information, they are there to help you, is on our website as well. So go check it out.
So one of the favorite people that we also have that supports us year after year after year is no other than Bestest Radon. And I have my good friend here, Paulina Carlberg, in the studio.
Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Same to you. We always love having you back, and we always have you in January. Why?
Well, it's not just a coincidence, but it does happen to be Radon Action Month or Radon Awareness Month as well.
Awesome.
And the Tagalog word for awareness is, you want to try that, Carrie?
Pagkaalam.
That's right. Pagkaalam. It's awareness, knowing. You're aware. It's in your radar. Radon is in your radar.
Well, and awareness is good to know, right? Like that's being good to know and educating yourself. So it's super important that we always talk about this, and that because a lot of people don't realize what radon is. And sometimes people don't even know. They're like, what? I've never heard of that. Some people have heard of it most of the time, and they'll be like, yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. Or they've never heard of it. So this is why it's so important. We always have you on and raising this awareness of radon.
So January is Radon Awareness Month. The aim of the National Radon Action Month is to increase the public awareness of radon, promote radon testing and mitigation, and advance the use of radon-resistant new construction practices, which we're going to talk about that a bit, all month long this January. So it's already, what is, this is our third week already in January. The District Health Department is giving away free radon test kits to help you determine if radon is present in your home. But you have this type of this thing too. So like you do this too, right? Paulina,
yes.
Talk about that.
So yes, actually the District Health Department number 10 is Kansas City. They are the ones that are giving away, and a lot of
not Illinois,
not
guys.
Illinois. Unfortunately, they're not doing the free radon test kits, but you can certainly call. They're the same tests, so they work anywhere. So you could certainly call.
Oh, and is it kind of like the COVID tests where like you can get them free in the mail?
Yes.
So you could reach out to them even though they're in Kansas.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you could get some free tests.
Absolutely.
Good to
But
know.
at the same time, if they call you, what is that like?
So people want to know the levels of radon in their home. So the only way you can do that is to really test. And there's lots of different ways to test. The best way to test to make sure that the way you're testing and the results of your test are valid is to probably talk to a radon professional like myself. Because the protocols in testing are a little rigorous, though you can buy a testing kit online at any big box home store. But what I found is that people don't do it accurately. So they're laying out the money for the cost of the test. Then there's another fee to send the test into the state of Illinois for them to test it for you, then to receive back the results of that test. And a lot of times those test results are coming back invalid because
and that's just a waste of money and time. So you might as well do it right the first time, right?
Exactly.
So call you. Right?
Yeah, it's a lot of this DIY test. I mean, again, coming back from the pandemic, there was always, it was very confusing to have all these COVID testing available everywhere.
Well, even doing that at home, it's like we could do that at home now, but you're like, is it accurate?
Right,
You're like worried because it's something serious that you need to make sure is accurate. So why don't we start with what is radon for the people who don't know what that is or maybe have heard a little bit about it but aren't sure.
Sure. The thing about radon is it's radioactive. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. So that's why you have to test for it, because you cannot tell if it's in your home or not. And it is in your home. It's in all of our homes, and it's in the air that we breathe outside. But it's not so bad outside because it's diluted by all the air. So even though there's radon outside, it's not.
Just like COVID.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. Now, could you kind of say, because like CO, right? People can die in their homes if they don't have the detectors because they don't know that they're breathing it in.
CO
they can't see it. You can't. Carbon monoxide, right? So would radon gas be similar to that where, it comes from the earth, right? It comes from the ground, but you can't see it, you can't smell it. So you have to have these mitigation systems installed, right?
Right. And the mitigations are installed in your home if you have high levels of radon.
Okay.
And because homes are so much tighter now that they're being built, and actually one of the things that Liz had said earlier about construction practices happening in the state of Illinois after the year 2013, all new construction is supposed to be built with a passive mitigation system, which is basically the guts of a mitigation system. So they're like PVC tubes, like 3.5 inch in diameter PVC tubes that go into the foundation of your house.
Even if there is no basement?
Even if there's no basement. Because you know what I say about that, Liz.
Yes.
When there's no basement, you're just closer to the radon on a slab.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
And actually, you just did one for me this week, and there's no basement. And it's above 4.0 PCL. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But
so it was tested high, and it's not a slab.
No basement.
Wow.
So
it never hurts, right? So,
but let's go back to that construction, new construction. Now, again, when people say, there is a gadget or this mitigation system in our system, it came with a house. That doesn't really mean anything that you can skip the test, right?
Right.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, because passive systems are just that. They're passive. They basically use the natural flow of air coming up through the ground and coming out through the top of the roof. So it uses that flow of air to basically get the radon out of your home. So passive systems don't always work. But the good thing, again, is that that's the major part of the system. It's already installed in your home. So if you want to make sure that passive system is being more effective, then it becomes an active system by adding a fan to that passive system.
So the construction companies are not forced to put a fan?
Right, they are not. They just have to build in the guts to the system. And sometimes the passive system works really well. But again, you don't know unless you test.
So that was going to be my comment is so they're like prepping it. They're like almost like pretty much doing 95% of the work, right?
Yeah.
That way you don't have to, pay a company to come in and dig through the foundation and install the mitigation system. So that was going to be my question is like, it's there, but you still have to complete it if you want it to work properly. So that answers my question that I was going to ask. So the fan needs to be installed for it to be a complete mitigation system to be working properly and effectively, correct?
Yes.
But this is very, very misleading, guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I was going to ask, because I'm like, okay, well, they have these, at least they have them started, but they're not complete.
Right.
Okay.
Without a fan.
So
And
it
then-
saves some of the legwork, some of the money that it will cost.
Yes.
But, okay.
Well, because we'll go over that, like if you find yourself without that gadget, the equipment that started it, what will it take and how much it is? And we'll go on with that one in the next segment.
Yeah, that
just
would be
kinda
a good question for sure.
It's a very good, good question. So now the other thing that I feel like we can, talk about in the next segment as well is that not just because there's an equipment, there's a fan, but radon is not always going to be, it's out there and will never come back, right? It could come back.
Sure, it's coming back all the time because it's still coming up. I mean,
It's always there.
It's always there.
Yeah.
But the mitigation system is working 24/7 to basically pump that air from out of your house and into the outdoors, and that's really what it's doing. So, but the thing about mitigation systems is that they're not discriminate just to radon. They're getting rid of everything that's in the soil.
Oh.
So allergens, it also lowers the humidity in your house. It's getting rid of moisture in your house as well.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll have to put a pin in that. I want to
Okay.
pick back more up on that because I'm intrigued now. I
That's
didn't realize
really, really
that it
incredible.
pulls out more in the air than just radon. So good to know. Well, definitely stay tuned, guys. We have more good to know information coming your way. You are listening to Good to Know with Liz Goodchild here at AM 1160. Our amazing, lovely guest and friend Paulina Carlberg from Best Test Radon is joining us. So stay tuned. You guys, we are on social media, so go check us out there on Facebook and Instagram if you go and search at Good to Know Liz. And also, you can listen anywhere, anytime for all of our previous podcasts on our website at thegoodchildteam.com/good to know. Again, that's thegoodchildteam.com/good to know. So stay tuned.
You don't need to make major decisions alone. Here you can expect good advice. You're tuned into Good to Know with Liz Goodchild on AM 1160.
We are back, and I am here with my very good friend who I've known, gosh, how long have we known each other? We talk about this all the time.
And we do, and we always relate it back to how old our kids are.
That's right. That's right.
So I just always remember walking into your house with, Matthew, our youngest, in the carrier.
Yes.
And then your twins there too.
So 20 years.
20-something years.
Yeah, 20-something years. And so one of the things that I got to tell my listeners is that when we bring in an expert in our midst, this is not somebody that we just met. I mean, we
know everybody, we trust everybody, we use them, we work with them. It's
in this case
a full circle
2
relationship.
decades. Okay,
Yeah.
this is a 2-decade
It says a lot.
relationship because it's not just the radon that we've utilized. The Carlbergs, and talk about the house doctor a little bit.
So radon, or Best Test Radon, really came from, or is a subsidiary of our company called the House Doctors Property Inspections. And we've been doing that for more than 22 years now.
That's right.
And so probably about maybe 10 years ago already, we decided that we wanted to add some other services for our clients who were asking about radon testing. So we decided to get into that and became licensed to do radon testing. And then the business alone, radon testing kind of took off. And so we started a separate company called Best Test Radon. And that's how that came to be.
Now, the thing I love about your guys' company, the house doctors, and then you also have the radon, Best Test Radon, but you guys are becoming a one-stop shop, which is super, super, super convenient. And that's what people like nowadays. They like convenience, ease. So what else have you guys have added some other services, no?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the fourth segment.
Oh,
all
okay.
the other environmental stuff that they're going to add to.
But that just made me think of it. So.
Yes.
Well, thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, we'll get to that.
So let's go back. What we were talking about in the first segment is what exactly is radon. So radon is a radioactive gas that is naturally released in the air from the rocks and soil. It can be found in the air outside and can get inside buildings and homes where it can build up. So there's no known safe level of radon?
No, because it's a radioactive element that we're basically breathing in. And so what it does is it can possibly lodge in your lungs, and then the radioactivity breaks down your lungs and causes lung cancer, and that's what it does. So really there are no safe levels, but the EPA has come up with a recommendation of 4.0 being the action level inside homes.
So what is that again? Explain 4.0. It's PCL, and I'm going to not try to say that word.
It's picocuries per liter of air. That's how we measure radon.
One more time.
Picocuries per liter of air.
Picocuries per liter.
No curious.
No curious?
Just curious. Yeah. Picocuries per liter of air.
Okay.
Remember Madame Curie?
Curie.
Yes.
Oh, Curie.
Yes.
Okay.
Or just
All right.
say PCL.
Or just say PCL. So
Yes.
if it's above 4.0, tell us about it.
So that number 4.0, I think really holds the most amount of weight in terms of real estate transactions. So when you're testing and you're buying a home, you're having it tested, and the home comes in above 4.0, that allows you to ask the sellers for some action to be taken. Basically, the EPA is saying that the levels are high enough where you need to consider mitigating the home.
So it's for buyers then when you're in the process of buying it, it becomes a safety issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's just kind of put this in perspective. So sellers, I'm talking to my sellers, okay? You put your house in the market, and you've got a buyer to put a contract on your home, and they're going to call Paulina, and they're going to do a radon test. So then she tests, and it's above 4.0. However, the buyers wrote the contract as is, okay?
Good point.
So as is. Now they find out that the high levels of radon. So what do? Well, the buyer has two choices. They can either just go ahead and accept the fact that there is radon in the house, or they walk away. If they walk away from this transaction, what does the seller have to do, Carrie?
They have to disclose it,
Right.
and then if I were the seller, you don't have to, but I would then mitigate, because if you already know it's going to be an issue for the next buyer, should they do a radon test? Because not all buyers, you don't have to do it; it's a choice. It's an option, but
that is really the key, because this act, this Disclosure Act, is very recent. That's why you just added this into your business component, because the newly enacted Illinois Radon Awareness Act went into effect January 1st, 2008. So, and again, this requires us realtors to have a general knowledge about the act, So before a buyer will become bound on a contract to purchase real estate, the seller will be required to provide a pamphlet.
Yep.
Okay, remember, this is something that we do
the educational
during a buyer's
pamphlet.
consultation, entitled Radon Testing Guidelines for Real Estate Transactions and the Illinois Disclosure of Information on Radon Hazards. So part of our buyer's consultation, this is something that we do as a realtor. We're required to do this. And when the seller lists the property, what do you guide them, Carrie?
what do you mean? What do I get?
So
get them?
about, do they know or not know about the fact that they have radon?
Yeah, so the seller disclosures, so that, the radon is one that is required. I don't know, majority, probably 95% of the time, the seller has no knowledge and they don't have a mitigation system in. So that's why we always encourage our buyers, it is a couple $100 extra, right? But a couple $100 versus like over $1,000 to mitigate,
how
right?
much is it now?
So I have to preface this by saying pre-pandemic, because everything's gone up.
Yes, just call it inflation.
Yeah, that inflation. Pre-inflationary times, we were looking at, and it's hard to distinguish, obviously,
Depends on
different
the house
homes.
and the
Yes,
location
if you've
and
got like
what they have
3
to
crawl
do.
spaces,
Yep.
a basement, and
Yes,
a
just
slab.
one kit.
Okay, so a mitigation system can cost anywhere from $1,200 to maybe $5,000.
But the kit, the
testing kit.
the testing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you're saying. So when you do a radon test, it's about $225 to $250, depending on where you're located.
So you're buying a $300,000 house. and you are not going to want to spend $225? I don't think
Well,
so.
and that's where I was kind of going with it. It's like that's how I preface it to my buyers. I say, okay, listen, $225 to give you peace of mind to find out if it's safe or not, and if it's not safe, then the seller pays for it, not you, right? Because then they'll pay the money to have to mitigate it and retest. So I feel like it's a win-win. At least you have peace of mind. If not, the seller then can mitigate it for you.
So realtors, though, let's go back to what we talked about in the first segment. When you have a seller that says, oh, we don't need that. We already have one. It's installed by the builder. We got it downstairs. So what do you say to that, Carrie?
I would still have like Paulina come out and, make sure everything looks good, or company or whoever it would be that would make sure everything's up to order. Probably still do a test just to make sure the levels are good. And if the system's not working, to make sure that it does work.
So I would educate realtors, listing agents. I would educate your seller that says that, hey, the buyer has the right to actually do a testing still, even if you have
an existing
is that what it's called? Mitigation center?
Yes.
A mitigation system?
Exactly.
Okay, because what are the things that could have happened with that system?
Like
the fan not working, batteries, like what are the things that,
what could fail on it?
What could fail on it?
Well, the fan, because it's a mechanical system, so it only has a life of maybe 8 to 12, maybe 15 years.
Okay.
But we've seen them in the past where, for some reason, it was clogged. And so the system was not working. There was leaves in there. Something was happening. It was clogging it, so it couldn't get the pressure, the suction that it was supposed to be having. So that has occurred before. Also, the fan, it goes out. Also, we've had it where there's switches on the mitigation system where you can turn it on and off.
I have seen that.
And it was off.
And it was off. And they didn't realize it. I think it was the landscaper who accidentally switched it or whatever, maybe with, I don't know, a weed whacker, but turned it off, and it had been off for years. And they didn't know it until they were moving. They had it tested, and then it came up very high.
Okay.
And they were like, well, what's going on? The system's working. But then we realized, well, it had been turned off. So
So how is there a way of knowing when it's not working? Like, let's say, you're buying the house and the seller mitigates it, and then you close and you move in, and it's like a year later. I don't know. I mean, like, it was working when you bought it, but like, how do you know
So do you have to test
if and
again?
when it's not working?
How
or,
often should we be testing?
Yeah, or should we be testing so often to know that?
So the EPA recommends every 2 years.
Okay.
And so, again, you can do it on your own. You don't have to hire someone to do it because you're not doing it during a real estate transaction. So you're doing it on your own. You can test on your own. Or if you want to make sure you're doing it correctly, obviously you can hire a professional. But every 2 years is what the EPA recommends. But, Carrie, you said had a question before Liz said that, and I wanted to speak to that, but I don't.
Yeah, it was about the system that how do you know if it's not working?
So there's a visual on the system itself. So all active mitigation systems have what's called a manometer on there. And there's actually a colored oil fluid that's inside there.
Okay.
And
I think it's like red or something,
yes,
right?
some,
I think
some
I know
are
what you're
red,
talking
some
about.
are blue, yes.
Okay.
And so you can visually, and it's marked on your mitigation system to where it's supposed to be. And those levels are showing that there's enough pressure in that system to be pulling the radon out, I guess.
Okay.
So when you look at it and it's not in the shape of a J, then it's probably not working.
So maybe if you're in the area, you take a peep at it and make sure, hey, it's still at the level it's supposed to be at, something like that.
All right, put a pin on that. We're going to dive into how do you really do this testing. I really want us to kind of like understand how does this actually work. So next segment.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you tuning in. You're listening to Good to Know with Liz Goodchild here at AM 1160. We're airing at 1 p.m. right now. In case you catch us halfway through or toward the end, we do re-air again at 5 p.m. But if you miss us all together, you can always go to our website and catch up there anywhere, anytime from thegoodchildteam.com/good to know. That's thegoodchildteam.com/good to know. So stay tuned.
You're listening to Good to Know with Liz Goodchild on AM 1160, a show that brings you hope, help, and a team of experts to help you. Here's Liz Goodchild.
We are back, and we are in January, and that is, what is it called?
Radon Awareness Month or Radon Action Month.
That's right.
Both.
So you need to know if you are free from radon, and the best thing to do is call Best Test Radon. And where can they reach you?
At 847-370-3916.
Once again.
847-370-3916.
And what is your website?
It's www.housedoctorsinc.com.
Because you're part of this, this incredible one-stop shop for home inspection.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So, okay. Now, let's get into testing, okay? Because I want to
The nitty gritty.
The nitty-gritty of testing.
The science. Are we going to get a little nerdy here? I love
Already
it.
there.
Okay, good. I love
Okay.
it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we have a transaction, and we represent the buyer, and the buyer then calls Paulina. So what's the process?
So the process is finding out when we're going to be able to get into the property. And then also part of that is getting in touch with the listing agent of the property so that they understand what the protocol is. So part of the protocol of radon testing is that we have to make sure that we make the environment as perfect as possible because we're just testing for a very short period of time. Because, you have a 5-day attorney review period. We need to get it in and out as soon as possible. And so with radon testing, there is a minimum amount of time that you have to test for, which is 48 hours. So you've got to leave a monitor in a property for a minimum of 48 hours. So we have to coordinate with the buyers, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the sellers to make sure we can get into the property and that they are meeting all the protocol.
And so here you go, buyer's agents. This is kind of where the rubber meets the road. If you are not experienced, you may kind of drop the ball on this one. There is 5 business days in attorney's review. If you're going to go ahead and do your home inspection, like let's say the 3rd day or even the 4th day, let's just call it the 4th day, and you just call the radon to do your to do your radon testing on the 4th day, she can't pick it up and read it
Till 48 hours later, yeah.
Correct.
So you're gonna need an extension right away.
Exactly.
Yep. Because
Okay.
you're already going to be at least one day past attorney review, right? In
Right.
order to even get the letter out.
Right.
But then you have to get the results back and include that. So then how do they come back,
and
right?
most most attorneys that we use, especially Agnello and Cash App that we've been using for years, they will say they will resolve the attorney's review, and then they will say contingent to the test results of radon.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but you just mentioned, okay, prepare the environment. Explain that whole thing, because there's steps, there's process, there's protocol, and the listing agent and the seller has to be aware of these. What are these?
The number one is closed building conditions. So, which means that all exterior windows and doors need to be closed off 12 hours prior to the test even beginning.
So if there's dogs and pets and, going in and out, like what are we talking about as far as normal going in and out the house?
Sure, normal, because we test occupied homes all the time. Obviously, people need to be getting in and out. So we always make sure that we tell them that obviously you can leave and you can come back, just close the door behind you. And that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
So what if they have the door open for a long time? What will it do to the test?
It will really make the test not be a valid test because we're not using that 12-hour closed building. The closed building conditions are not being met.
So is there a way, once you get the results back and you're going through them after 48 hours, that you can tell if the test was, I guess not tampered with, but like that it wasn't closed conditions, that the owner or the listing agent maybe did something that they forgot and they had a door open for like 5 minutes because they were moving something in and out or something like that, right? Is there a way for you to tell if the test was, damaged, I guess?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. So there are different types of radon monitors. One of the monitors that we used is called a continuous radon monitor, where it's actually taking samples of air every hour on the hour. And let's say, for example, we're trending at a 1.2, 1.2, 1.2, or I'm sorry, I'm going to say that in reverse. We're trending at a like 5.5, 5.5. All of a sudden, it just drops down to like 0.7.
Okay.
And then it goes back up.
Oh.
So we can see the graph of that happening, and then we can say, well, there's some anomalies in this test, and we're not quite sure it's a valid test.
Okay.
So we would talk to the sellers, and the sellers, we get to it before replacing the monitor, we're having them sign what's called a non-interference agreement, where we're literally going over all the protocol and helping them to understand what to do and what not to do.
Okay.
And also to help them understand, because some people are like, well, what if they open a window to try to get the radon out? It doesn't necessarily work like that. Opening a window can actually increase the pressure in your house, therefore pulling more radon into your house.
Wow. Interesting.
So it's not like you open a window, it's going to let everything out. Not, especially if you're just doing it for a short period of time and then you close it back up. And another thing about radon is that it doesn't really accumulate. So it has a half-life of 48 hours, and that's the reason that we have to test for a minimum of 48 hours. So I've had a lot of people where their homes were vacant, let's say, and everything had been closed up for like a year or a couple years. And they're like, oh, well, the house was closed up and that's why the radon levels were high. And that's not the case, because radon has a half-life.
This is a good one.
And it dies off. So it doesn't accumulate. So if it's been sitting there for, a year and it's been closed off, it doesn't mean it's going to have really high levels of radon just because it's been closed off.
So that's so interesting. So
good to know.
Always good to know.
Pagkakaalam.
Pagkakaalam. So if it's not, if a person's doing a radon test with you and they're not purchasing a home, like they're not in the purchasing process, they've already lived in it for a year, a couple of years, or let's say even a month. Do you leave those monitors longer? Because I know, because you said minimum is 48, and that's to kind of, because we have such a short, attorney review window to get those results back. So you always leave it for 48 hours in a purchaser's, transaction, right? But what if somebody's outside of that and it's just they're a homeowner and they never had it tested?
Well, again, it kind of depends on what monitor we're using. So, for example, if I'm using the hourly, if I test for 7 days, the report is going to be like 20 pages long, because it's going to be testing every hour on the hour. So
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to do it that way.
Plus the fact that it's only there for 48 hours, it doesn't make sense.
So you have different monitors then?
We have different types of monitors, yes.
Speaking of which, okay, so you explain, like, okay, if a house has a full basement, maybe you need one, but sometimes there's a slab, there's an addition with a crawl space. Tell us, how many
different areas.
How many kits do you need?
Yeah, that's another great question, because again, when people are doing it themselves, they don't realize that for every separate foundation that you have in your home, like Liz just said, if you have a basement, but then there's a crawl space, and then you have an addition that's sitting on a slab, that's 3 different foundations. You have to test at every foundation, because whatever foundation is in contact with soil, there's a possibility of high radon levels there, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about condo and your weird clients, Carrie.
Yeah. Now, this had a basement. This is so rare to find a condo that then has a lower level, huge basement, high ceilings, natural light coming in, couple, bedrooms, a full bath, like laundry room, like they would be living down there.
Yeah.
Okay. But they found out they were newly expectant parents. And the dad-to-be was already educating himself. Like I had already educated them, and they did the test, obviously, which was good. But it came back at like 2 point something.
Mm-hmm. 2 point, not under 4.0.
It was under 4.0, but, and I've actually been wanting to talk to you about this because I'm so curious. So being a worrisome new dad, and baby's not even here yet, but it's like they even want to test for mold. And this condo building was built in 2006. No signs of mold. You don't have an attic, anything like that. So I get it, right? Worrisome, trying to be extra safe, new baby's on the way. But yeah, so he was like doing his own research and, was like, oh, the EPA says even though if it's under 4.0, it's still worrisome, right? Mm-hmm. So, ultimately that combined with some other home inspection issues, the deal fell apart, which happens. But, how do you deal with, a client maybe like that that's like over worrisome or, and I was telling them to even give you a call. I don't know if they did or not. But we were trying to manage them as best we could. So what would you say to them, given that it was the 2.0, but they were still worried and they still wanted it mitigated?
So you know what I said, though? I'll let you answer that question here, but you know what I told her? Sell them a condo on the 4th floor.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Which
because
we'll
radon,
bring that up,
the farther up you go, the less effect that you're going to be, less effects from radon. Yes, absolutely.
So how do you handle that client?
Well, everybody has their own issues, not issues, but what they worry
Worries.
about and things like that. And so really it's just very relevant to how they feel about it. And if they're worried about it, then mitigate. Absolutely.
Yeah, because in this case, during purchasing, the whole important thing is that if it's over 4.0,
yes,
it's a safety issue, and the seller, we can ask them to mitigate it, right? Now,
This
if it's
is
under,
they don't have to.
the seller is not required because it's not. To them, it was a safety issue still. So that's where the catch was, is they wanted the seller. And I said, hey, it never hurts to ask. We asked. They said no, and so it's. I get it,
Yes.
So,
But they
just
could have done it
understanding that.
themselves if they really, really wanted
If they
to.
really
they
wanted
could have
to.
spent the $1,200, $1,500 and done it
course.
themselves.
yes.
Good
Or what
point.
they could have done was a long-term test, because those are the other types of tests that you can do in your home.
Okay.
So you can do a long-term test, which lasts anywhere from 3 months to a year. And actually, that is the gold standard of radon testing, because then you're testing through all the seasons, because radon is affected by
my
so many
gosh.
things: wind, barometric pressure,
Yeah.
seasonality. Absolutely. So a long-term test.
Well, let's
Hold
talk,
on to
yeah,
that one.
we need to talk more about that, because I didn't know that. And for me, I like to do everything right. So I wouldn't actually mind doing that long-term test to see. But anyways, you guys tune in for more good to know information coming your way. We'll be right back after the break.
Looking for a network of experts on what's happening in your town? You're in the right place. This is Good to Know with Liz Goodchild, your source for good advice.
Good advice is what we have here, and the advice is we gotta know about radon. Pag-aalam, be aware of what this is, because it is the leading cause of lung cancer deaths among non-smokers in America and claims the lives of about 21,000 Americans each year. You
So
have that one?
important.
Yeah.
And nearly, and this is, throughout the United States, nearly 1 of every 15 homes in the United States has high radon levels. And EPA estimates that more than 10% of radon-related lung cancer deaths occur among people who have never smoked cigarettes. So, we were talking about in the earlier segment testing, right? And how, the different things that we're testing. And so you were talking about this long-term test. What is that again?
Basically, just a same type. Not the continuous radon monitor that we would use, where obviously we're getting an hourly update on the radon levels in your home. Where a long-term test is very different, where you get just one number at the end. It's just an aggregate number of however long you left it in there. But it's a pretty accurate number in terms of what is going on in your house, because radon is not stagnant. As I said, it is very affected by different weather conditions. High levels of wind can make your radon levels much higher. High barometric pressures, different seasonality in the winter as opposed to the summer, your radon levels are going to fluctuate by a lot. So doing a long-term test, you can do it yourself. Again, any big box store or online. I'm sure Amazon carries them. So they're just, again, you have to follow the protocol. Obviously, if you do a long-term test, you're not keeping windows and doors closed. You are just living your life the way that you would normally live it in your home. And then that's really a good indicator of what's happening in your home.
So we ended last segment with this long-term test, which I was super intrigued on. And so you're saying you could buy a big box store test, and
Or they can go through you,
or
right?
Absolutely. They can go
either
through me. Mhm.
Okay.
Is
Yes.
that more expensive, like with the long term?
No, I think they're probably a little bit more expensive, but I think that they're probably, to be honest with you, I don't know. I've never priced out like online the longer term tests, but they're probably pretty much the same as the short term tests. They're doing the same thing.
So then So then when you're doing this long-term test, because normally within the 48 hours, like we're talking usually with a purchase transaction, you have to have close conditions. So is that monitors different that like compensates for that
Yes.
then?
Mhm.
Okay.
They are completely different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
The ones that I have seen look like little pill bottles, and then you just open the pill bottles, and there's different ways. It actually is absorbing the radon. So there's different ways that they're able to monitor radon levels in your house, and so it just, and then you close it back up. There's a little envelope that you put in the envelope. You send it back to the state of Illinois. They run the test for you. You get the results back from them.
Interesting.
So this leading cause of cancer amongst non-smokers, we're talking about, so 4.0, we had one time, I'm sure you don't remember this, but you tested one of my clients' houses, my seller's houses, and it was 18
Yes.
PCL.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. How, and you were able to kind of like relate that to how many pack of cigarettes is that like smoking it every day?
Like about 40 packs of cigarettes a day. It's like double.
Wow.
So like at 4.0, it's like smoking 8 cigarettes a day.
Holy goodness.
Wait, 8 cigarettes. So 4.0, you're still smoking 8 cigarettes a day.
Yes.
That's a lot.
That's not good, guys.
Yes.
Not good.
No.
So back to your baby, your first parent,
The baby.
nervous
2.0.
2.0.
Can't blame 'em.
Well, that's still 4 cigarettes a day.
because they were going to be living in the basement. Like I think it was going to be their playroom. Both of their offices were going to be down there. So I get it. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
And so you do have the right still to mitigate, but whether during the transaction, if it is below 4.0, you would have to, be okay paying to mitigate it yourself. And you should. I mean, I probably would still.
Yeah. Yes.
So just another thing to factor in.
Absolutely.
And again, if you have an investment of over what was that condo? It was like $300,000. 225 is not a bad investment. So again, tell everybody where they can reach you and your website, because you have a lot of information on your website
Yes.
about this, right?
Yes.
What's on your website that they can see?
Well, it's kind of going over the statistics that we shared today. 21,000 deaths a year attributed to radon lung cancer caused by lung cancer caused by radon. And actually, you had talked about 1 in 15 homes in the state of Illinois, or in the United States,
whole
but
United
actually
States.
in the state of Illinois, it's 38% of homes. So
Wow.
So almost a quarter of all, not a quarter, more
Just
like a third,
almost 40%,
yes, almost
right?
40%.
So that's almost 50%. So it's like
crazy.
that's crazy. So
That's
it's like
crazy.
almost 2 out of 5 homes.
Yeah. And you know what? It is very typical for in certain areas. And I tell
Give
this
us
to
an
everybody,
example.
St. Charles. St. Charles. And I think that the way and someone explained it to me that St. Charles sits on some kind of geological soil
that
or
would make
crack or
sense.
something but
Interesting.
I would say that St. Charles is way higher than 38%. I mean, every
about
time we
Barrington?
test. Barrington, I would say, is closer to that 38%.
Also?
Yes.
Okay.
The city is definitely under that 38%.
Okay.
It's hit or miss.
It's hit or miss.
It's very rare, but sometimes it'll come up.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Carrie. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very rare, but we have had certainly
That's why you do
situations
it.
of high levels of radon, and you don't know unless you test.
Exactly.
So, is there like a truth about the fact that, if you were more in like farmland area, like,
More rural.
that it will be more?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
that's just
Pingree Grove,
geographic.
Hampshire, New Hampshire, those, because those areas, were fields in most recent, and now they're all like new construction.
Oh,
and
way
all
out
that.
west. Yeah.
Yeah, way out
Yeah.
west.
Yeah.
What do you think of those areas?
I think that those are probably in the average as well. I don't
I
think
see.
that I'm not really seeing that, but I think like St. Charles, Plainfield tends to be very
Plainfield.
high when we test. I think more than that 40%, that 38% of Illinois. But it's just, and it doesn't have to do anything with new construction or super old houses. It just really has to do with the soil that you have underneath your home.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very
And
cool.
even if you are, a walkout basement or an English basement,
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
When that
Yeah.
foundation is in contact with the soil, there's there's an opportunity for that radon to get up into your house. And I don't know if you guys remember or not. The last time I was on, I was telling you the story of Stan.
That's right. Tell us the story of Stan.
So really quickly, Stanley Watrous in 1984 moved into Boyerstown, Pennsylvania. He was hired to work at the Limerick nuclear power plant at the time. He was a construction worker. And so the plant wasn't even working yet. But he was walking into the plant right after they had installed the radiation detectors, and he set the radiation detectors off. Oh. And they were so perplexed. They were like, what's going on? There's not even any nuclear fuel in the plant at the time. So what is going on? So after several moments, days trying to figure it out, they actually followed him back to his house and found that his picoliters came in at 2,700 picocuries per liter of air. So
did he develop? He had to have cancer.
No, because they had just moved into the house because they just took that job. But here's the thing: they moved out immediately. The EPA moved in immediately, and it became their laboratory to figure out how to test and mitigate.
Because it was so high.
Wow,
that is
2,700.
But here's the thing.
Lord,
they moved back. They were able to mitigate it down to under 4.0.
Wow.
So that's how they were able to figure out how to test, how to mitigate. At 2015, they were still living in that house.
Wow, that is such a cool story.
This is incredible because we can talk on and on about all this, and we didn't even touch all your other environmental stuff. But one last time, give them your phone number, please.
So you can reach us at Best Test Radon at 847-370-3916, or you can get on our website and find lots of information at www.housedoctorsinc.com.
Perfect.
All right.
Paulina Carlberg, Best Test Radon. Always appreciate you being here.
Such a pleasure.
Always good seeing you. And guys, good awareness, Radon Action Month. Get out there and educate yourselves and make sure you call Paulina for that test if you don't know if your home has been tested yet. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, this is Good to Know with Liz Goodchild and Magandang Sabado.